Good afternoon, everybody. In last three classes, we know about the consumers equilibrium, demand, supply, consumption, how the consumer got this equilibrium through the demand curve, and ordinary utility analysis, and also cardinal utility analysis. So today you study about the producer side, means production side. We know that production means the combination of various inputs. Various inputs or factors of production when combined, then they arise a product or output. With the joint efforts of these inputs like labor, machines, land, raw materials, that output is produced. Normally, production is carried out under condition of variable proportion, which means that the rate of input quantities may changeable. Fixed proportion production means that there is only one ratio of inputs that can be used to produce a good. That means, for example, only one driver can work one job. The ratio is 1 is to 1. The, however, the ratio of land and labor in agriculture can be changed and is thus regarded a variable. In short run, not all inputs are variable, but in case of the long run, all inputs are a variable and the ratio of inputs may also changeable. This is the case of technological progress. In the short run, for the purpose of analysis, it is assumed that only one input is variable and all other inputs are fixed. To discuss about the short run, now we discuss about the concept of these things: total products, average products, and marginal products. And the short run production function, whether it is a graph or mathematical equation, gives the total output obtainable with different quantities of the variable inputs. But the capital in which capital is fixed but labor is a variable input. We discuss this thing about total product, average product, and marginal product. We can take a schedule. In that schedule, we find that capital is fixed and in amount of labor is changeable. It is changed to 0 to 10. But when capital is fixed 5, but no labor is used there, the production is also 0. When labor is used for 1 and capital is fixed 5, then the output is 20. After that, when you increase the product variable input labor as usual, then we find that the product is increased, but it increased a limit at a point. After that, it diminishing in nature. In this schedule, we find that at the point of 7, it is increasing level. But after that point, when we use 8 units of labor, then we find that that is constant, means equal to the 7th unit of output. After 9th unit input of labor, 9 units of labor is engaged in this sector, then we find that that is decreasing in nature. And in 10 unit also it decreases. These total product are increasing in an increasing manner. After that, it is decreasing or diminishing, increasing but in diminishing manner. Then how we calculate average product? Average product means Q by L, quantity by L, or total output by labor unit. And here we in this column also we find that first average product is increasing in up to the 6th unit of the labor engaged. After that, in 7th unit it is decreasing. And also marginal product we know that addition of the last total product, it here also first it is increasing in manner up to the third third unit of the labor engaged. After that, it is diminishing and it is come to the in the eighth unit, it comes to the 0, and after that it is negative. In this case, we find that when the marginal product is increasing, that time the total product is increasing in increasing rate. And after that, when marginal marginal product is diminishing, but it is positive in nature, that case the total product is increasing, but not in increasing rate. But when the marginal product is 0, that time average product is highest. After that, it is diminishing. So, the average product of an input can be defined as the total output divided by the amount of input used to produce that output. So, APL equal to Q by L. APL is average product of labor, Q total output or total product, L amount of labor. So, in the marginal, what is marginal product? The marginal product of an input is defined as the change in total product due to a unit change in the use of input, while quantity of other inputs are held constant. That means capital is constant. In that case also, marginal productivity of labor equal to delta Q by delta L. Delta Q change in output, delta L change in labor input. In this fifth in this fifth column, the marginal productive labor is shown. It may be noted that with the relation of the average product, it is increased as initially and then falls and finally becomes negative. In the marginal product of labor becomes negative when labor input exceeds 8 units. This happens when the variable input is used too intensively with the fixed input. The marginal product is greater than average product when average product is rising, equals to average product when average product equals to average product when average product is at maximum, and less than average product when average product is falling. Though there is relation between marginal product and average product. So then this schedule can be present in a diagrammatically, where we find the average product curve, marginal product curve, and total product curve. In the diagram, page number 147, you see a diagram. Here you see that increases at an increasing rate up to point E, and as more labor is used. Here, the point E where total product stops increasing at an increasing rate and begins increasing at a decreasing rate. This point E is called as point of inflection. Total product reaches at maximum at 224 units when 7 units of labor engage in the production sector. The use of an additional unit of labor input at this stage does not lead to any increase in total product. Beyond this point, use of labor input results in fall in the total production. That portion of total production called TP shown as that in the dashed in the dotted line, which means that the output as a result of increased employment of labor. When a labor input is expanded beyond 8 units, output falls, which means that production is not technically efficient and thus that is not a part of the production function. Yes?
Ma'am, one question.
Yes?
We are seeing that with the increase in amount of labor, total product also increases at a certain point. But what is the reason of its declination if we increase the amount of labor?
Here, you see that total product is increased certain limit, then it is diminishing. Okay.
Ma'am, what is the reason of that diminishing point?
Oh, now capital is fixed. Okay. If you use double labor, then suppose there is an example of agriculture sector. After a limit, we know that here technology is fixed. We cannot increase the fertility of land. For that, after that point, if you double the labor, to suppose we find that if we double the labor, we think that the production is double. That is not possible. At that time, a rational producer does not want to produce much more in that case. Like that, in this sector also, when input labor units are increased, that time the production is not increase as much as the labor. So that at the same rational producer does not want to produce anymore. Okay.
Ma'am, even if we are further increasing the labor, the total product produced should be 224. I am talking about diagram 7.1. Okay. So even if we increase at least the highest which it has reached, then 10 amount of labor can also produce that much amount. But why the labor? But why is it producing less?
Because here the cost is marginal cost is more at that case. Marginal product is less, for which average product is decrease also. At that time, if total product, we know that total product is increasing in nature, but as usual average product is decreasing in nature. At that time, the cost is much more than the price. For that, the rational producer stop at that time, at that point. Clear?
Okay. Okay.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
In the diagram, we see that in the point of E, the total product increase in increasing rate. So this point is called an inflection point. But the portion of total product curve is shown by a dashed line. After X unit of the labor, it shows the dashed line, because after that it is diminishing. Total product is increasing but in diminishing rate. That means the production is decreasing, and that time marginal product is zero. When marginal product is zero, that time total product is highest. And at the time, when labor input is expanded beyond 8 unit, output falls, which means that production is not technically efficient and it does not a part of the production function. So, the units of the vertical axis have been changed from output per period of time to output per unit of labor. Average product and marginal product curves measure the output per unit of labor. It may be seen that when marginal product is more, at the time average product is lying below the marginal product. But in that case, it may be noted that as the use of labor input increases, initially the marginal product of labor increases, reaches a maximum at 3 units of labor and then declines. After that it declines, the marginal product of labor in becomes 0.8 at the point of 8 units of labor, and thereafter turns marginal products as a negative. The average product of labor also increases initially and reaches maximum at 4 units of labor input and then declines. Then what is the relation between MP and AP? Product increases, average product also increases, though at a rate lower than that of the marginal product. It is so that when marginal product starts decline but remains greater than the average product, the latter shows a tendency to increase. That means there is important that even when marginal product starts decline but remains greater than the average product, that is show the tendency to increase. When the average product is maximum, the marginal product is equal to it. And this is because the marginal product curve intersects the average product curve at highest point. And beyond this point, when the marginal product declines, it also pulls the average product decline, fall down. However, the rate of decline in the average product is less than that of the marginal product. So, marginal product and average product are interrelated. Initially, marginal product increases beyond, but the average product increases, but it is lying below the marginal product. When average product is highest, the marginal product is equal with it, intersect with each other. Then it is in the eighth situation, their marginal product is zero, but average product is declining at the time. Then what is the relation between TP and MP curves? As long as marginal product curve is positive, total product curve will continue to rise. There is rise in increasing rate. When marginal product is zero, that time total curve reaches its highest point. It may be when in the example we may show it in that when 8 unit of labor input is employed, marginal product of labor becomes zero and total product is maximum. Thereafter, marginal product of labor is negative and total product curve has downward slope, which means that total product falls. So, this is the relationship between MP and TP. And so, these concepts, average product, marginal product and total product is helpful for the conditions of production or further production sector. Then marginal product starts decline and this pull down the average product also. In the production process, generally land, capital, equipment, buildings remain fixed in the short run because these are fixed equipment, fixed capital, while quantities of labor and raw materials can be changed. We may consider a case where amount of capital is fixed and the quantity of labor is increased. In this case, initially the marginal product of labor will increase as its amount is increased and the marginal product will also pull up average product with it. In this situation, total product increases at an increasing rate. If the variable input labor is increased, marginal product stops increasing after a point. Thereafter, the rate of increase of total product also shows to a fall. Ultimately, marginal product turns negative and this causes a fall in total product itself. So, here marginal product is the base of the average product and total product. Mainly total product is dependent on the marginal product and this changes since in the short run changes in technology are ruled out. That means the technology is constant. This statement of trends in marginal product in response to change in quantities of variable factor applied to a given quantity of fixed factor is called law of diminishing return. That means it is otherwise known as the law of variable proportion because the proportion in which factors of production are used, we can sum up the law of variable proportion like this way. After that, as equal increments of one input are added, the inputs of other productive services being held constant. Beyond a certain point, the resulting increment of products will decrease. The marginal product will diminish. In a The marginal product, with increment of one input, the input product is service being held constant. Beyond a certain point, the resulting increment of product will decrease. That means the marginal product will diminish. The means marginal product after initial term marginal product is increasing, and after some time it is diminishing in nature. The law variable proportion can be easily followed by a schedule or a table. In this table, as the amount of labor employed in this schedule, we can find law variable proportion. Beyond a third unit, the marginal product is increasing, and after that it is diminishing in nature, and in the 8th unit it is negative in situation. To base up these things in total product also, first 3 units it is increasing in increasing rate, and after that it is increasing but in diminishing rate, and after that it is fall down or diminishes in nature. And from this table, we can know about the law of variable proportion. Initially, the increase in output takes place on increasing rate because marginal product rises. At point E, which is the point of inflection, the rate of increase in total output product switches from increasing to decreasing because marginal product begins to diminishing. And when the amount of labor is further expanded after 3rd units of labor, when 4th unit of labor is engaged in the production sector, that time total product continues to increase through at a diminishing rate because marginal product and average product remain positive, but both continue diminish, so that in the case of the when the marginal product is diminishes, that time also total product increasing but in diminishing nature. Thirdly, it will be counterproductive because marginal product is negative, which implies that total product diminishes. At that, after 7th point, when 8th unit of labor is engaged, that time participant marginal product is 0. After that, total product is fall down. At that time, total product is highest. From properties of this product curve, page number 149, we can find there is in the law of variable proportions, we find there is 3 stages. First is increasing stage, then diminishing, and then negative stage. Here, first stage, what happened in first stage? First stage, total product is increasing in increasing rate, increases in increasing rate. Then rate of increase changes from increasing to diminishing. At that stage also, it after some time, after third units of labor, what happened? Total product is increasing but in diminishing nature. Then start the point stage second, where at points F and J continuously increasing at diminishing rate. And at that time, average product is maximum, which is equal to MP, and then average product starts diminishing. Because of that, maximum product now starts diminishing, and it becomes a marginal product becomes 0 at that case. Then after second stage, which is in the diagram at the point K, after that stage third, which is the total product diminishes and the average product curve is continuously diminishing and the marginal product is negative. It is from J and K. To write the points J and K. The three stages of production is described from this way. But what is stage one? Stage one is the is particularly by the rising average product. In our case, examples, stage 1 occurs when labor is employed from 1 to 4 units. In stage 1, total product cost increases at an increasing rate and the marginal product rises. It reaches a maximum labor input of 3 units. When fourth unit of labor input is employed, diminishing returns set in implying that total product increases at a diminishing rate and marginal product falls. In stage second, total product increases at a diminishing rate and thus both MP and AP decline. MP being below the average AP, pushed later down. The right-hand boundary of stage second is at maximum. Total product where marginal product reaches zero, that time total product is maximum. Then stage 3 where marginal product is negative and the continuously average product is declining. At that time total product is falling. Then a economist or a producer want which stage is best for the production. The rational producer will operate in stage 2. It is not difficult to follow why production will not be done in stage 3. In stage 3, less output is produced by using more of the variable input, which means that production cost would be higher in stage 3 than they were in stage 2. Obviously, any rational producer will always avoid to produce in this stage 3. In stage 1, average product of the variable input is increasing. Therefore, if the amount of variable input is double, the output more than doubles and the unit of cost of production output decreases. If a farm is operating in competitive market, it would avoid producing in this stage because by expanding output, it reduces the unit cost while the price it receives remains same for each additional unit sold. This means that total profits increase if production is expanded beyond the region rising average product. So that initially the variable factor labor is not able to use all the capacity of the fixed cost in the initially case. Hence, MP and AP remain low. For that, one worker may not be able to make full use of the potential of 1 hectare plot land, but 2 workers together are in a better position to work on that field. Hence, rise in MP as labor increases from 1 to 2. Thus, any rational producer will operate in the second stage only when the law of diminishing marginal return operates. This is why the law of variable proportion is also called law of diminishing marginal returns to a factor. In this stage, in first stage, initially the labor, which is the variable factor, cannot use its all potential on this production sector. Because of that, production is not increasing. And when you use the more units of labor, then you find that the production is increased, average production also increase. Because of that, the cost is decreases. For that, the rational production can arise the revenue from this second stage. Then these 3 stages, we explain increasing returns. The initial stage of production is quantity of the variable factor is increasing, so that it is called increasing returns in production. The classical economists had termed it as law of increasing returns. They felt that this law operates only in manufacturing industries. The modern economists believe that this law can operate in any area of economic activity. Marshall operates its increasing returns only in the manufacturing industry, and he believed that when the quantity of labor and capital employed in the manufacturing industry increase, the scale of production increase, and this leads to a better organization of production. According to Marshall, an increase in labor and capital leads to generally to improved organization, which increase the efficiency of the work of labor and capital. Therefore, in those industries which are not engaged in raising raw produce, an increase in labor and capital generally gives a return increase more than in proportion, so that he he believed that the increasing returns to scale is only increasing returns in production only operates in the manufacturing sector. But John Robinson explained it that it is used in every sector of every field of economy. According to him, when an increased amount of any factor of production is devoted to a certain use, it is often the case that improvement in organization can be introduced, which will make natural units of the factor more efficient, so that an increase in output does not require a proportionate increase in the physical amount of the labor. So, the increasing returns operates not only in manufacturing industry but in all productive activities. The tendency of increasing returns come into operation because the efficiency of the factors of production is improved. Then example how this increasing returns operates. First, optimum combination of factors of production. According to Robinson, full exploitation of some individual factors of production is not possible until increased quantity of some other factors of production are employed. Here, indivisibility of factor is the capital. It cannot be divisible in nature. For that, when the quantities of some factors increase, then the production also increase. Therefore, when the producer engages a small quantity of different factors of production, and optimum proportion among them is not established, and the level of production remains low. When he increases the quantity of those factors of production which were employed less marginal product increases till the point is reached where the factors are combined in optimum portion. Naturally, at this point, output level is maximum. So, at the initial period of time, capital cannot use indivisible of factor. The capital cannot use its total potential, so that when the raw material or the variable factors are changed or increased, then the production also increase. At that time, the producer can get optimum proportion. Then large size of fixed factor. When the size of the fixed factor is used for producing a given good is very large, while the quantity of the variable factor used is very small, the level of efficiency remains very low. As more and more quantity of the variable factors are employed, marginal productivity increases, for which the level of efficiency also increases. As, for example, if only one person is working on 10 hectare plot of land, his productivity will be very low. As the number of workers increases, then the division of labor and specialization also increases. Because of that, production also increases, and marginal product will also rise rapidly. Then constant returns to scale. Even if If even on continuous rising in the quantity of variable factor of proportion in a farm, the marginal product neither increases nor decreases but remains constant. The tendency of constant returns is in operation. There is no industry in which increase in the quantity of variable factors of production yields constant returns permanently. There is not constant returns permanently. According to Marshall, if the actions of the law of increasing and diminishing returns are balanced, we have the law of constant returns. Marshall feels that the operation of the law of constant returns is very limited. According to him, this law can operate only when there is a balance between the tendency of increasing returns and diminishing returns. But modern economists regard the area of operation of constant returns as large. According to them, the tendency of constant returns is generally found to operate before the tendency of diminishing returns set in. In no field or productive activity, increasing returns are obtained forever. Whether it is agriculture, manufacturing, industry, or any other productive activity, the tendency of increasing returns can operate only up to a certain limit. After this limit, it is reached to constant returns operate for some time. From the point of view, the producer, this is an important stage because it exhibits an optimum combination of the factors of production. In this stage, marginal cost is the minimum because the stage of constant returns is reached only when the tendency of increasing returns comes to an end. There is no possibility of further decline of marginal cost. And secondly, after the stage of constant returns, the stage of diminishing returns sets in. Therefore, the stage of constant return is very significant for the point of view of the producer. Because of that, producer always wants that they produce much more in this constant returns to scale. Then diminishing returns. Diminishing returns is happen when the marginal productive is zero. The diminishing after marginal productivity is zero, the total product has the problem of diminishing returns. The diminished return stage is the most important of the three stages of the law of variable proportion. The explanation of this law is diminishing return is presented in two ways. First, the classical economists believe that this law applies only on the agriculture sector. Marshall has stated that while the part of which nature plays in production shows a tendency of diminishing returns, that part which man plays shows a tendency of increasing returns. Modern economics, John Robinson said that these economists regard the law of diminishing returns of the far greater applicability than the classical economists. According to Marshall, had argued that this law operates only in agriculture. Therefore, he discussed it only in reference to agriculture. According to Marshall, an increase in the capital and labor applied in the cultivation of land causes in general a less than proportionate increase in the amount of produce rate unless it happens to coincide with an improvement in the arts of agriculture. That means when land is kept fixed in agriculture, while the quantity of labor and capital applied on that land is increased, total production increased, but not in the same proportion as the factors of production are increased. So that the increment in production and the increment of the factors is not in same proportion. It increases but in a lesser proportion. That means here the agriculturalists face the problem. Due to this reason, agriculturists do not consider it profitable to continuously increase the application of other factors of production on their fixed plots of land. Then here land they know from their experience that there is some improvement in the agricultural techniques, increased application of labor and capital on a fixed quantity of land leads to a situation of continuously declining marginal productivity. Due to this thing, the has Marshall has accepted two limitation of its diminishing returns for in agriculture, so that Marshall's theory of law of diminishing returns is criticized. And what is this? The law generally operates in agriculture. Marshall believed that this law is operate only in the on the agriculture sector. But in some cases, when the agriculture applies the first unit of labor and capital on a fixed plot of land, the fertility of the soil is not properly exploited. Then what happens? The level of production remains low. When the second unit of labor and capital is applied, output increases in a greater proportion. However, this tendency does not remain for long because the agriculturist soon finds that additional units of labor and capital start yielding a lower and lower marginal product. Marshall was because of this reason, Marshall was careful in pointing out that the law of diminishing returns operates generally in agriculture. And however, in certain exceptional cases, it may not operate. There should be no improvement in agriculture techniques. The law of diminishing returns operates only if there is no improvement in agriculture techniques. If that means the law is static agriculture. If the agriculture is able to expand irrigation facility on his land, make better seeds and better implements and more fertilizers, then scientific automatically the operation of this law is halt. Generally, an improvement in agriculture techniques leads to more than proportionate increase in output, corresponding to an increase in labor and capital. Against the view of Marshall, some modern economists criticize it, and according to them, Robinson presented this law in general fashion. According to Robinson, the law of diminishing returns, as it is usually formulated with fixed amount of any one factor of production, successive increase in the amount of other factors will, after a point, give a diminishing marginal increment of the product. From this definition, it is clear that this law as a universal value does not restrict its application only on the agricultural sector. According to her, this law operates in all branches of productive activity, and the principal reason behind the operation of this law is that the optimum operation between different factors of production breaks down sooner or later. The law of diminishing returns is a logical necessity. When in any productive activity, the quantity of the variable factors of production employed with given quantity of fixed factor of production is increased, the law of diminishing returns set in after the point of optimum proportion has been reached. Then initially, application of variable factors was sub-optional given the size of fixed factor. Later, the expansion in use of variable factors led to sub-optimality of different kind. Another important reason for the operation of the law of diminishing returns is that one factor of production is used in a fixed quantity, and had all the factors of production been available in the abundance, and had it been possible to increase their use in production to all conceivable limits, the law of diminishing returns would not operate. However, all factors of production, land, labor, capital, enterprise, organized extra are scarce, and often the supply of one wage is taken to be fixed. In this factor, that results in diminishing returns. So the law of diminishing returns is applied by Marshall, who was a classical economist, and the John Robinson, who is a modern economist. Whereas Marshall said that it is only useful in the agriculture sector, or it is applied on the agriculture sector, because agriculture sector after some time it gives the constant returns, and it is not profitable to increase the variables. But Robinson stated that it is used on all the economic activity of the economic sector, all the sectors. Then this was the concept of law of variable proportion, where we discuss the three stages. Among these three stages, a rational producer use the second stage to produce the thing, produce its continuous production. Then production function. The theory of production begins with some prior knowledge of technical or engineering information. The level of production depends on technical condition, not by the economists. If there is an improvement in the technique of production, increased output can be obtained even with the same quantity of factors. However, at a given point of time, there is only one maximum level of output that can be obtained with a given combination of factors production. The technical law which expresses the relation between factor inputs in terms of production function. The production function describes the law of production, that is the transformation of factor inputs into outputs at any particular period of time. Further, the production function includes only the technically efficient methods of production. This is because no rational in so production function describes the laws of production. That is the transformation of factor inputs into outputs any particular period of time. Period of time is also given. The production function includes only the technically efficient methods of production, because a rational producer always use efficient methods in his production sectors. Here we may assume that there are two inputs, labor and capital, and the production function is function of labor and capital, or quantity or output is function of labor and capital. Then what is the combination, and how can a producer produce its and which two combination, which two goods are taken, what amount of the labor, what amount of the capital is used for the production. It is called an isoquant. Then isoquant. When in the consumer section we study about the consumer's curve, that is indifference curve. Like that, in the producer sector, production sector, for producers we study or we know about the isoquant. And isoquant is the locus of all the combination of two factors of production that yield the same level of output. In case of the consumer section, indifference gave the consumer in a indifference curve, all the points of combination give him same level of satisfaction. Like that, an isoquant is the locus of all the combinations of two factors of production that yield the same level of output. It can be we understand with the help of a schedule. Let us suppose a farm wants to produce 100 units of commodity X, and for that purpose he used the 6 in 3 process, 1, 2, 3 process. In that section, all the 3 processes yield the same level of satisfaction. all levels give the same level of output, that is 100 units of X. The first process, the labor unit is less, but capital is used much more. So the first process is called capital intensive. And then, since we assume possibility of factor substitution, we find that there are two more processes available to the farm, and in each of them factor intensities differ. In the third process, the labor is abundance in nature, but capital is less. It is called labor intensive nature. And we can construct an isoquant curve consistently for two factors of production. There in the page number 158, a diagram is there. In this diagram, we saw O axis represents labor and O y axis represents capital. Here, when the capital is used 7 units, labor is 2, which is one is capital intensive technique, but it gives constant output 100 units of X. Then in the combination of C, the capital is capital is 3 units and labor is 6 units. Here labor is more than the capital, and this process is labor intensive process, but it also gives the same output 100 units. When you graphically join these points A, B, C, B is the mixed factor. Here labor is 4 units and capital is also 4 units. Here both are equal in the B process. When we join this ABC combination, we get isoquant curve. Then isoquant curve is sloping downward. And this isoquant curve is 3 types. This curve is convex isoquant. And this convex isoquant mostly used, and we mostly used. The isoquant can assume some other shape depending on the degree of the substitutability of factors. The two other possible production isoquants are linear isoquant and input-output isoquant. Linear isoquant. In case of perfect substitutability of the factors of production, the isoquant will assume the shape of straight line sloping downwards from left to right. It is in the diagram, it is shown that when quantity of labor is increased, page number 159, when quantity of labor is increased, the quantity of labor is increased by Rs, the quantity of capital can be reduced by Jk to produce a constant output of labor, 50 units of X. Likewise, on increasing the quantity of labor St, the capital is decreased KL, and on increasing quantity of labor by Tu, quantity of the capital can be reduced by MLM for producing 50 units of X. Here we see that Rs equal to St equal to Tu, and also Jk equal to KL equal to Lm. And it is a constant quantity of labor substitute a constant quantity of capital. It implies that a given commodity can be produced by using only labor or only capital, or by infinite combinations of labor and capital. In the real world of production, this seldom happens. This linear isoquant is shown rarely. Therefore, a linear downward sloping isoquant can be taken only an exceptional case. Then input-output isoquant. When factors of production not substitutes but complementary, technical coefficients are fixed. The meaning of this statement is the optimum output is obtained only when the factors of production are used in a fixed proportion. In this situation, if a producer uses one factor of production in excess of what is required by fixed proportion, there will no increase in output. So, in the case of complementary factors of production, the shape of the isoquant is right angle like L letter. The isoquant is formed by two straight lines, one vertical and other is horizontal, and these two lines are perpendicular to each other. The common point of these lines is convex to the origin. This type of isoquant is called Leontief isoquant, which is named after Wesley Leontief, who was the pioneer of this work, a pioneer of this input-output analysis. In input-output isoquant does not imply that by increasing the quantity of the two factors of production, labor and capital, the output will increase proportionately.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, can you explain this one input output isoquant again?
isoquant curve.
Input output isoquant
Okay.
again.
Yes, input-output isoquants. When factors of production are not substitutes but complementary, technical coefficients are fixed. That means the optimum output is obtained only when the factors of production are used in a fixed proportion. In this situation, if a producer uses one factor of production in excess of what is required by a fixed proportion, there will no increase in output. That means if the producer only increase one factor, that means output is not increased at that manner because both are complementary to each other. As capital increase, like labor also increase at that same proportion. That can the output also increase. In the case of complementary of factors production, the shape of the isoquant curve is right angle or L shape. In this input-output model, which is found by Leontief, Wesley Leontief, that here two factors are complementary factors. Both the combinations of both the factors can increase the output. And this common factor, when the perpendicular interest touch in a line, the common point of these lines is convex to the origin. It implies only that for producing any quantity of commodity, capital and labor must be used in a fixed proportion, so that slope of isoquant curve is like right angle. Clear? Then isoquant map. The like indifference curve map, the isoquant map also give the same thing. But here in this map, it is producer's map. Here the rightwards isoquant curves give higher level of output. And the level of production increase as one moves away from the origin and goes to higher isoquants. A complete set of isoquants for the producer is called isoquant map. Then assumption of isoquants. What are the conditions of isoquants? First, it is generally assumed that there are only two factors or inputs of production. The geometric exhibition of the concept is easy, since we can easily draw a diagram. If you abandon this assumption and consider 4 or 5 factors of production, we would not able to make use of the diagrammatical representation and would have to resort to the algebraic method. Second, the second assumption of this isoquant analysis is that the factors of production are divisible into small units and can be used in various proportions. Then, technical conditions of production are given and it is not possible to change them at any point of time. Technical conditions of production given, different factors of production are used in the most efficient way. If this assumption is abandoned, then any one combination of the factors of production will aid a number of different levels of production, of which the highest level obtained will be efficient. So, these are four assumptions of isoquants. Then, what are the properties of isoquants? Like last class we read about we know about the consumers properties, consumers curves, independence curve properties. Like that, isoquants properties are here we described. First, isoquants are negatively sloped. That means isoquants slope downward from left to right. That implies that they are negatively sloped. The reason for this characteristic of the isoquant is that when the quantity of one factor is reduced, the same level of output can be achieved only when the quantity of the other is increased. That means if factor of capital is reduced, if one factor means capital is reduced, then automatically it takes the more additional unit of labor, which give him the same level of output. These characteristics of the isoquant assume that in no case marginal productivity of a factor will be negative. In a more realistic case, when this assumption is dropped, one may find an isoquant which bends back upon itself or has a positive slope. It is a rare case. Then, a higher isoquant represents higher output. In the isoquant map, we found that rightward isoquant curves represents larger output that is obtained by using the more factor. In the diagram, we see that when the factors are increased, then automatically the curve also, isoquant curve is also give much more output. In the P1, it gives 100 units of output, and in P2, it produces 200 units of output. And two isoquants representing different output levels. A higher isoquant gives higher amount of output, and a lower isoquant curve gives him a lower level of output. Then, third property is isoquants never intersect or touch each other. Isoquants do not intersect or touch each other because they represent different levels of output. For example, if in the diagram 163 page, we see it in this diagram, P1 intersects P2 at the point of A, and P1 gives 100 units of output and P2 gives produce 200 units of output. Their intersection means that reach the same point in the same isoquant curve give him the same level of output, but it is not possible. So that isoquant never intersect or touch each other. Then isoquants are convex to the origin. In most production process, the factors of production have substitutability. Often, labor can be substituted for capital, and capital can be substituted to labor. So that the rate at which one factor of production is substituted for the other in production process, that is called the marginal rate of technical substitution. That is HOL. That means when one factor of labor is one factor of capital is reduced, is substituted the one more additional unit of labor is engaged in the production sector. And this technique, when this substituted for one factor to other in a production substituted in the production sector, that is called marginal rate of technical substitution. Then marginal technical rate of technical substitution of factor L for factor K is the quantity of K that is to be reduced on increasing the quantity of L by 1 unit for keeping the output level unchanged. Output is unchanged, but the quantity of K is reduced, but quantity of L level is increased. Then can you find the same level of output? The isopoints are convex to the origin because the marginal rate of technical substitution tends to fall. Let's take an example. Why this happens? Why this happen? Here the isopoint curve is P. Suppose that the producer is at point A of the curve. The meaning of this that he uses OJ amount of capital and OR amount of labor units to get 100 units of output. Assume that 1 unit of labor OR is RS, OR is increased to RS. Then automatically what happens? The capital is also reduced and to K. Now the combination is C, where the output is, the capital is K and labor is S. When that increases the amount of labor by ST, then similarly when they increases the amount of labor by ST, PU and UV, he must reduce the application of capital by KL, LM, NN. It is clear from the diagram that JK is more than KL and KL is more than LM, LM is more than MN. In other words, as additional units of labor are employed, it becomes progressively more and more difficult to substitute labor in place of capital, so that lesser and lesser units of capital can be replaced by additional units of labor. This means that the marginal rate of technical substitution tends to fall. When the quantity of one factor is reduced, it becomes necessary to increase the quantity of the other factor, increasing rate. For example, suppose that in a particular productive activity, two factors of production, labor and capital are employed. When the quantity of labor employed is reduced by 1 unit, it is possible to undertake the activity by employing 1 more unit of capital initially. However, when 1 more unit of labor is reduced, it might become necessary to compensate this by employing 2 units of capital. As the quantity of labor employed is reduced successfully each stage, we will require more and more units of capital to compensate for the loss of each additional unit of labor. So that capital is, so that in the case of labor is increased in equal manner, but the capital is reduced as more than lesser manner. The marginal rate of technical substitution between them would be constant and the isopoint will be linear and sloping downwards. In the case of perfect production as perfect substitutes, the marginal rate of technical substitution between them would be constant and the isopoint will be linear and sloping downwards from left to right. In the case of this strictly complementary, that is zero substitutability of the factors of production, the isopoint will be right angled. And other case, it is normally the case is in isopoint case is convex to the origin. So isopoint is helpful for the producer to All the combinations give him the same level of output. Besides this, which is most suitable combination to get optimum level of output? And in this diagram, we find that in case of complementary, in the case of strict complementary, that is the substitutability of the factors is 0 and 0. For that, the isoquant will be right angle, or we may call it L shape. In the linear and right angle isoquants are the limiting cases in the production process. Then production functions generate isoquants which are convex to the origin. Then economic region of production and rigid lines. Now they are assumed production function which yield isoquants having all the properties of a normal isoquant except that they are not negatively sloped throughout. That means they have positively sloped segments, and the production function is depicted in the form of a set of isoquants which have positively sloped segments. This is described in the page number 166 diagram, where the isoquants is positively sloped. We know that in negatively sloped, the isoquants is sloping downward to the right. But in negatively sloped isoquants, it is upward to the right. Suppose isoquant P3 in the diagram, isoquant P3, AB segment of this isoquant have a negative slope. Beyond points A and B, this isoquant is positively sloped. Similarly, other isoquants have the points where they bend back upon themselves, implying that they become positively sloped. The lines OK and OL joining these points are called rigid lines. When OK and OL joining are called rigid lines. They form the boundaries for the economic regions of production. Suppose the output represented by isoquant is P3, by isoquant P3 is to be produced. For producing this quantity, a minimum of OK2 amount of capital is required, because any smaller amount will not allow the producer to attain the P3 level of output. With OK2 level of output, the OL2 amount of labor must be employed. In case the producer uses an amount of labor less than OL2, together with OK2 amount of capital, his output level would be lower than the one represented by isoquant P3. This is quite normal because use of inputs in smaller amounts would give a smaller output, but combining labor input in an amount larger than OL2 with OK2 amount of capital would also result in output smaller than that is represented by the isoquant P3. In order to maintain the P3 level of output with a large labor input, capital input also in a large amount has to be used. This is something which no rational producer will attempt because it involves uneconomic use of resources, because these economic resources are used by this that is uneconomically, which do not give the profitable result. Point B, on the isoquant P3 represent the intensive margin for labor, because an increase in the amount of labor input beyond OL2 with a fixed amount of capital input OK2 does not increase the output level. At this point, marginal product of labor is 0. and thus the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor for capital is zero. This implies that the point B, labor has been substituted for capital to the maximum extent, thus to the right of rigid line OL. Then have stage 3 for labor. So that, and beyond OL to labor, the labor is not used. Similarly, producing P3 level of output, a minimum of OL1 amount of labor input is required. A smaller amount of labor input will not allow the producer to attain P3 level of output with output. With OL1 amount of labor, OK amount of capital must be used in addition to capital input beyond OQ1 would not increase output. The point represents intensive margin for capital because an increase in the amount of capital input beyond OK1 with fixed labor input and of OL1 does not augment output. At point A on P3, capital has been substituted for labor to the maximum extent. Thus, above rigid line OK, we have stage 3 for capital. The marginal rate of technical substitution of capital for labor is zero, which means that the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor per capital is infinite or undefinite. So, the combination of labor and capital inputs comprising the area between rigid lines OK and OL constitute the generalized stage 2 of production for both resources. These are the combinations that are relevant for production decisions. Then the optimal combinations of factors where a producer got equilibrium. A producer may attempt maximization of output subject to a given cost of alternatively. He may seek to minimize cost subject to a given level of output. In both cases, for choosing optimum quantity of two inputs, labor and capital, he must consider their physical productivity as well as their prices. While isoquants represent the productivities of the inputs, their prices are shown by the isocost line. So the isocost line gives the productivity or prices of the goods, and isocost line represent various combinations of inputs that may be purchased for a given amount of expenditure. That is the producer's budget. The producer has to purchase factors or inputs from the market, and the prices of labor and capital are determined in the market is not our present concerns. Moreover, the firm is no position to influence the input prices unless it is a monopolist or oligopolist. In other words, prices of labor and capital have to be taken as given by the firm operating in a competitive sector of market. Suppose the firm's total cost outlay on labor and capital is 1,000. The firm is free to spend this entire amount on labor and capital, or it may spend it on a combination of both labor and capital. Now, in the page, on the page 168, in the diagram, we saw this. We have shown that if the firm chooses to spend the entire amount of ₹1,000 on labor input, it can employ OL2 amount of labor. And if the entire amount is to spend on capital, it can get OK2 amount of capital. The straight line K2L2 is an isocost line. Represents all the combinations capital and labor which the firm can obtain for ₹1,000. The length of OL2 is twice the length of OK2, which means that the price of unit of labor is half that of unit of capital. The slope of the line K2L2 shows the ratio of input prices. so that the slope of an isopost line is W by R, which is the ratio of the price of labor wage to the price of capital rent, when x-axis denotes labor input and y denotes capital input. Then in the isopost, prices of inputs and prices remain the same no matter how much quantity of these inputs the firm buys. So the slope of the isopost equal to delta K by delta L, or expenditure by R expenditure by W equal to W by R. This property is similar of the budget line of the consumer. There is important difference between isopost line and budget line is that consumer's budget is invariably fixed. He has a single budget line, but in the case of the isopost line, the firm generally has no such constants, and that has much more one isopost line. There is more than one isopost lines. And isopost line is further to the right reflects higher cost. The one closer to the origin reflects lower cost. The higher are the right sides are give a higher cost, and the reflects then closer to the origin is the lower cost. Then a rational producer is how it maximize. A rational producer is always maximize output for a given cost. So he may attempt to minimize cost subject to a given level of output. He always wants how to minimize the cost, so that a producer maximizes output for a given cost. Suppose the producer's cost outlay is C, and the prices of capital and labor are R and W respectively. Subject to these cost conditions, the producer would attempt to attain the maximum output level. This one is described on the diagram, page number 169. In this diagram, we find that in the OX-axis represents labor or input prices of W, and OY is the represents capital or the input price of R. In P3, it may be noted that the P3 level of output is not possible because the available factors resources by isopost are insufficient to reach that level of output. So in any output level between the P1 and P2 is possible, then the isopost line KL intersect the isopoint line P2 at the point of S, and the isopoint P1 also intersect the isopost line at the T and R. Any output level beyond isopost line KL is not attainable because the producer can attain any output level in the region K beyond the KL or beyond OKL that would not require all the resources that are available producer for the cost outlay, and the resources are not fully utilized. For that he does not got the maximum output. Therefore, in the case of a given cost, the producer's attempt would be reached the isopoint, which represents the maximum level of output. The producer can operate at point S. S is the higher level. S is the higher level of combination between KL and P2. P2 is the higher level isopoint line which intersect the isopost line KL at point S. At point S, the combination labor and capital available for the same cost and enables the producer to reach isopoint P2, which represents an output level higher than the P1. Since at point S on isopoint P2 is just tangent to isopost line, A lesser output is not efficient because production can be raised without incurring additional costs. Hence, the optimal combination of factors of production, capital and labor is OK2 of capital plus OL2 of labor, as it enables the producer to reach the highest level of production possible given the cost conditions. At the same time, the region that lies behind it must be followed carefully. Let us suppose that the producer wishes to produce a point T. The marginal rate of technical substitution of labor per capital indicated by the slope of tangent AB at point T is relatively high. Suppose delta T is equal to 3 and delta L is equal to 1. Thus, the slope of tangent AB is 3:1, which implies that at point T, 1 unit of labor can replace 3 units of capital. However, the relative factor price indicated by the slope of KL is less than the 0.7:1, which means that the cost of 1 unit of labor is the same as the cost of 0.7 unit of capital. Therefore, it would be rational on the part of producer that the substitutes labor per capital so long as the marginal rate of substitution of labor per capital is not equal to the factor price ratio, so that the ratio of the price of labor to the price of capital at point R, the opposite situation prevails because the marginal rate of technical substitution is less than the factor price ratio. So in that case, the producer is not rational to produce at the P or R level. So the producer is optimum in the position, or producer equilibrium is established at the point of S, where OK2 and OL2, OK to capital and OL to labor is engaged beyond its cost isocost line KL. So the producer maximizes output for a given cost only when the marginal rate of technical substitution of labor per capital equal to the ratio of the price of labor to the capital. That means MRTS LK equal to W by R. Means marginal productivity of labor by marginal productivity of capital. Then, if a producer seeks to minimize the cost of producing a given amount of output rather than maximizing output for stipulated cost, the condition of his equilibrium remains formally the same. That is, the marginal rate of technical substitution must be equal to the factor ratio. Suppose this can be easily followed by a graphic. We have a single isopost line P, which denotes the desired level of output, but there is a set of isopost line. There are different sets of isopost line, K1, L1, K2, L2, K3, L3. An isopost line closer to the origin indicates lower total cost. Isopost line parallel to above the original line, that is more total cost. Then it may be noted that the producer is beyond the K2L2 isopost line can prepare only E level of output. That means he engages OB amount of capital and OA amount of labor, and it is P not producible by any factor combination available on this isopost line. However, the P level output can be produced by the factor of combination represented by point F and G, which are an isopost line K3L3. But alternatively, the producer can attain the P level output by the factor combination represented by the point E. It represents relatively lower cost. Therefore, by moving either from F to E or G to E, the producer attains the same output level at a lower cost. The producer does minimize his cost by employing OB amount of capital and O amount of labor, which determined by the tangency of the isoquant P with the isopost line K to L2. Points representing factor combination below E are certainly preferable because they represent lower cost, but they cannot be considered as they cannot help producing the output level represented by the isoquant P. Points above E represent higher cost, hence point E denotes the least cost combination of the factors labor and capital for producing output shown by isoquant P. So that the producer always minimize its cost and production is maximized, and then for the he choose a point where optimal combination of factors and where he get in the more level of output. The optimal combination of factors, whether the producer seeks to maximize output for a given cost or he wishes to minimize cost for a stipulated output, is that where marginal rate of technical substitution and the factor price ratio are equal. The producer is in equilibrium when there is optimal combination of factors are arise. So that consumer always choose that level where cost is minimized and level is output level is maximized. Then what is expansion pair? Producer expand their outputs both in the long run and in the short run. In the long run, output expands with all factors variable, while in the short run, expansion of output is possible with some factors constant and some factors are variable. In the long run, there is no limitation to expansion of output as all the factors of production are variable. The firm's goal being maximization of its profits. It seeks to expand output in the optimal way with given factor prices. The optimal expansion path is the locus of the points of tangency of successive isocost lines and successive isoquants. Then when isoquant lines and the intersection of isoquant line, isocost and isoquant lines we join, we get the expansion path. Then this is the initial position of producer equilibrium. In the diagram, page number 172. Initially, this is the first A where isopost line K1L2 is tangent to the isoquant P1. This is the initial position of the producer equilibrium. Then suppose factor prices remain constant. Suppose the producer desires to expand output to the level indicated by the isoquant P2. This will cause a shift in the isopost line K1 K2L2. The new equilibrium point is B, where isopost line K2L2 is tangent in the isoquant line P2. Then further expansion in output to the level corresponding to the isoquant P3. Then the isopost line shift to the K3, L3 and isoquant line P3, which tangent the point C, which is the equilibrium point. When we connecting all the points of the producer equilibrium A, B, C, we get a curve OE, which is the expansion path. Since every point of the expansion path denotes an equilibrium point of the producer, it shows that the optimum combination of factors of production on particular level of output. It may be recalled that each point of producer equilibrium is defined by equality between marginal rate of technical substitution and the factor price ratio. Since the latter has been assumed to be remain constant, the former also remains constant. Hence, OE is the isosclean line along with output expand, which factor prices remains constant. In the case of linear homogeneous production function, the isoclenes are straight lines through the origin, where M marginal rate of technical substitution is 0. and optimal expansion path in the short run. In the short run, there is some constant, there is some factors are constant, some are variable factors. Labor is one of the variable factors, and the producer can expand his output with the help of the increasing the amount of labor along. Then, by the increasing the amount of labor along a straight line parallel to the x-axis, which this factor is measured. In the diagram on page number 173, the straight line AB indicates the expansion path as the total amount of capital is fixed at OA in the short run. With the prices of the factors of production remaining constant, the firm cannot maximize its profits while it expands its output in the short run on account of the constraint of the fixed amount of capital. So that if the equilibrium point is extends from E to H or I, in the short run, the producer cannot produce the level in the P2 level of output or P3 level of output because its capital is fixed. The optimal expansion path would be OR, where it possible for the firm to increase the quantity of capital, but given the amount of capital, the firm has no choice but to expand along the straight line AB in the short run. So at that time, in the short run, the producer only can choose the EP1 isoquant line where he produce optimum producer, sorry, optimum point of producers, and here in this level only he produce the level of output, level of output, and he does not change its level of output in the OR expansion path because of the constant capital. And expansion path in the short run in the case of linear homogeneous production is like AB. Okay, now we complete this thing, all the consumer production sector with two variable inputs. If there is any doubt, write down some questions. Some probable questions are there. Write the relationship between MP and AP curves. What is total product and what is marginal product? Explain the three stages of production. And why should a rational producer under competitive conditions produce in stage 2? Diagrammatically expand the law of variable proportion. What is production function? What is isoquant and types of isoquants? Explain the properties of isoquants. Diagrammatically explain producer's equilibrium or the optimum combination of factors. What is isocost line? How can we draw expansion path? Any doubt? Question डाकी देनी. Okay, today's class is over. We meet again in next day, tomorrow.